The following program is an opinion program. The opinions expressed by the hosts and guests of this program are not the opinions of the management, staff, and advertisers of this station. Please direct all criticism, concern, and adulation to the hosts of this program.
Welcome to Alabama Politics. This week, I am Dale Jackson. I'm a radio talk show host. You can hear my shows Monday through Friday from 5 to 9 a.m. on WVNN in Huntsville and from 10 until noon on Talk 99.5 in Birmingham. With me right now, Mecca Music, as she is every single week. She is the CEO of 256 Today, smart news for smart people. Smart enough not to lie on federal firearms forms without having a father as the President of the United States. That's a pretty smart thing to do. We will talk about that, obviously, I am sure, at some point. And Cameron Smith will be with us from AL.com. We'll talk to him about some stuff going on around the state. And then I've got a parting shot for you about the Houston County Registrar. It's a hot story. Just wait till you hear this thing. But for right now, let's go ahead and get to the 2-minute warning. Little Hunter Biden. God, they just can't leave the president's kid alone. He's only 54. He's a little guy. Leave him alone. They're not supposed to be a big deal here. They're off limits or something like that. Boy, what a deal. What a hookup. 70% of people who commit tax evasion of over $1 million end up going to jail. Hunter Biden, one of those that did not. So did he get the hookup? Well, maybe. If you want to consider that he also had a pending gun charge. And there's this other investigation going on as well with bribery. And plus, they have him on video with sex trafficking victims. He's a crackhead, all sorts of different things. But other than that, I mean, I think you'd be jumping the gun if you were to say he got the hookup. Mecca, did he get the hookup?
I would say that many people are displeased. They're calling it a sweetheart deal, especially many Alabama Republicans and other Republicans in the Capitol. It does seem, from depending on which side you are, it seems like it would be a sweetheart deal. But what was interesting to me is, like, if you go to Politico, there's an opinion piece up there, is like, Hunter Biden got special treatment, ... especially harsh. And it lays out that the fact that he was, because he's the president's son, that he was targeted for these things, and you know, really just this they went after him more so because of who he is. So it's interesting to look at the different perspectives.
Yeah, that's a perspective, no doubt about that. I think there are 3 tiers of justice in this country right now. People are saying there's 2. There's
more
3.
than the 2 tier?
There's 3.
Okay.
There's the Biden tier.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Trump tier. Mm-hmm. And then there's the tier for the rest of us. And this is absolutely amazing to watch him get this sweetheart deal. And people be like, I wonder if it's a sweetheart deal. It is supposed to immunize him and his father from all the other stuff going on. Say, okay, we're done with this. That's all we need to see. We've seen enough here. He paid that penalty. He's got a criminal record now. It was funny. Jonathan Carl was on The View on ABC, and he was talking to the brilliant women there, his colleagues there at ABC News, and he was telling them, he was like, yeah, Republicans are going to say all this stuff, and it's like, it's just kind of made up. I mean, yeah, we need to know why he was working for this company and got this money and a ring from some person in China and all these other things. But other than that, it's just Republicans doing it. So what a mess. All right, let's talk about something that is equally as messy, redistricting. One of my favorite topics. You hear me say this all the time. It's a hot topic. It's a very, very exciting topic. People love this topic and cannot get enough of it. Redistricting in the state of Alabama. There are 7 congressional districts. There, I think, are at most 3, probably 2 that are going to be seriously impacted by this. And the question I've had all week to every legislator I've talked to is who's actually drawing these lines. Now, you may think that means there's like a smoky room somewhere where they're having conversations and making trades here and there. I mean, surely that is happening, but it's probably happening over email back and forth as they try to figure out what's going on. But that's not what I meant. What I meant is, are the legislators going to draw the lines? Or are these 3 judges going to draw the lines? They gave until July 21st and said you can draw these lines, or we're going to do it ourselves. Well, there's another angle to it too. When they do draw these lines, it goes to those judges and they can go, nah, we don't like these, and we're going to draw them. And that will set a whole other battle off. Mecca, Who's drawing the lines here?
I mean, obviously the legislators, but if I'm understanding you correctly, you think it's going to go back to the court system and it's going to be up to the courts. And
Well, they'll have
so
to
this
approve
is
it,
kind of
yeah.
a waste. This is a waste of time. Is that where you're getting at?
No,
I don't-
I don't think it's a waste of time because it's a very exciting issue that everyone is paying
I
very
pick
close
up on your sarcasm, okay? I get that. And it is a very important issue. Whether you're riveted by it or not, it does impact
In this particular
Alabama.
case, it is actually interesting. Okay, as opposed to the other times we talked about it a bunch of times. And I'm not saying.
And I said it was important because it could come down to this.
You were right.
And who was
Yeah,
right?
I'm not saying you were right.
Okay.
But this is actually very interesting because they've got to figure out a way to please this 3-panel judgeship here and say, or these 3 judges on this
Listen,
panel.
I don't think that's impossible. I think you're taking it to the foregone conclusion. I think a lot can happen, and I think it is possible.
Okay, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have 0 minority districts in the state, and you're going to have the people are going to have a problem with that. You're going to have a lot of people are like, this is a victory for the Voting Rights Act. Those same people are going to be on television going, oh, well, what happened here, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen.
There are many possible different outcomes, some very far from probably the original intent of the Voting Rights Act. And again, we've said it before on previous shows, and I'll say it again, Sewell is not happy right now.
My favorite plan that they talked about is putting Sewell's district all the way up into North Huntsville at 565 and 65. Please do that.
That one is pretty much off the table, basically, though, from what we hear. But
put it back on the table.
But the Birmingham area is the one that is most likely to be impacted.
I would like
by
this to be as ridiculous as possible. Okay, make it interesting. All right, let's talk about school choice. This is something else that I'm interested in, and most people seem to not be interested in. See, I have a little self-awareness here that I see this. But the GOP chairman, John Wall, gave an interview to Capital Journal on Alabama Public Television, and they had a conversation about how optimistic he was about school choice. And I was watching this thing, and I was like, what in the world is he talking about? They were unable, with a super Republican majority legislature, with a $2.8 billion surplus, I believe, and with all the political momentum in the world for school choice, they were unable to even get that out of committee and have a vote on the floor in either chamber. In one chamber, they were just like, this committee, no, let's go to this committee. Well, let's just wait a little. Oh, we're out of time. And that's basically how it was played. I don't get why he's optimistic. I like that he's optimistic. I wish I was this optimistic, but why is he optimistic?
Okay. I, myself, literally every guest on this show has explained to you what you can reasonably expect on this issue, and that it's by the inch. I mean, that's how it's going to be done. And it doesn't mean, so I think his optimism is also politically smart, obviously. That's why a lot of Republicans.
Unless somebody craps all over it.
Like,
yeah, I mean, unless someone says, come on, what is this? This is crazy. You know what I found funny about this?
What?
This is all happening the same week where we get a story one day. It's like 22% of third graders are probably going to be held back next year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's probably going to happen. Which, by the way, that right there is agenda setting. That is setting the agenda to come back to this next legislative session. Maybe we should kick the Literacy Act down the road a little bit more. I don't think it'll happen, but I think there will be a big effort to do so. You have all this talk of the AEA claiming they won the legislative session. We talked about it last week, and they absolutely did. But I think if you stacked all these things up and you put it in front of the average person and said, is this working? And they'd say 52nd out of 50, how is that possible? It's Alabama math, that's how it's possible. I think most people would go, maybe school choice might be a good idea.
No, and I think that there is widespread appeal for it. But again, sometimes things just don't get done the way Del Jackson would like them done.
Okay, the AAA wins again. All right, let's talk about Tommy Tuberville. Very interesting week. Everyone's still hammering him. The Pentagon, Joe Biden, his colleagues in the Senate, some Republicans, people in the state of Alabama. I mean, this guy is taking an absolute beating, and he is just standing firm and saying, you could just stop breaking the law, right? Like the Pentagon could just stop breaking the law. That's something we could do. And the Pentagon has employees of theirs coming out and saying, yeah, it's not really about what he's doing now, but it's about transgender surgeries and abortion law and all these other things that could potentially come into play when they're thinking about the Space Command. Really stupid to say publicly, but Mecca, that's what we saw. We saw voices outwardly saying that it could be
It was a
abortion
lieutenant general for U.S. or Space Force who was talking at a diversity equity event and actually did not mention Huntsville by name.
Yeah.
But very clearly said that the rankings shouldn't be the only reason to choose something. It should include these other issues. So now Tuberville has come out this week with a bill that he says would remove the politics from these sorts of decisions. Now, my question to you is, does it go anywhere?
It might. I mean, who's going to say, no, we want politics in this decision? That's what we
It would seem like an easy choice.
Yeah, well, it's also hard to get that out. The interesting thing about it is that Lieutenant General is behaving like a lot of librarians and teachers and everyone else around this state, or country and state, where they're like, we're going to do what we want to do. We know better than what the law says. We're just going to do these things. And I got to say, one of the things that they give Tuberville a hard time for, holding back these promotions and stuff, they're like, oh, well, it's really hurting national security. It really is. And it's like, guys, there are not unmanned nuclear subs somewhere waiting for a promotion. That's not what's going on. It's next man up. It's hurting those individual soldiers. I will agree on that, and that's terrible. That is true. But this idea that it's hurting national security, I'll give you an idea that might actually hurt national security. And Tuberville, if you're listening, you should use this. Saying that it doesn't matter the rankings. That hurts national security. Saying that we'll just go to the fifth one because we're mad at these guys. That does sound like when I was in the military, by the way, where I was supposed to be promoted a couple times, and I watched get passed over for other reasons. So maybe it's just par for the course here. But Tuberville, this is not over.
It's not over.
He's not going to give up.
And using, again, though, we talked about it before, but using these political arguments against this, and this sort of, it's not just Alabama at play here. It's so many other states and so many other issues and projects going on.
And by the way, all of this is predicated on the idea that the Pentagon should not be paying for people's abortions, which there is basically illegal to do. And Tuberville's right on top of that. Being technically correct is the best kind of correct. All right, we will return. Cameron Smith will be with us next. Stay tuned right here on Alabama Politics This Week.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for my friends at University Kia. Now look, I love Kias. I've driven plenty of them. I used to have a Kia Sportage. When my son was born, my wife said, no, we got to get ourselves one of these big SUVs. The Telluride from University Kia is an absolutely amazing vehicle. You get it at a great price, but you get everything at University Kia at a great price. Learn more about them today. Head on over to universitykia.com. Find the perfect vehicle for you, new and pre-owned. They got it for you. universitykia.com.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improved range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
WVNN is the only radio station of relevance in North Alabama, with the most live and local talk you'll find anywhere. Start your day with the Dale Jackson Show every morning at 5 a.m., followed by the Yaffe program at 9. Dan Bongino is up at 11. Right Side Radio starts your afternoons at 2. And Mark Levin takes you home at 5 p.m. It's the best news talk anywhere. And it's only on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here, and this is my son, Grant. Now, I'm here to talk to you about Top Shelf Customized Cleaning. He's a handful, I'm a handful, and if I want to stay married, I need Top Shelf Customized Cleaning to come and take care of my house. They do an amazing job for me, and they'll do an amazing job for you. Cindy loves them. I love them. Grant loves them as well. Check them out on Facebook. Top Shelf Customized Cleaning. And don't forget, call them today, 256-417-9122. And when you talk to them, make sure you tell them Grant sent you. Welcome back to Alabama Politics This Week. I am Dale Jackson. This is Mecca Music, and our guest this week is Cameron Smith from AL.com. We got a lot to talk about with Cameron Smith. I want to start off the beaten path here for a minute. I was going to put this subject on there but it just didn't have room for it. Across the state of Alabama, we saw this at the Department of Archives and History. Now we're seeing it at different libraries around the state. They're bubbling up. And there's an incentive to cover these things, don't get me wrong. They're bubbling up everywhere. And what I'm watching happening in every part of the state that this stuff is coming up, where they're programming liberal social agenda stuff into these government entities, I'm watching as politicians say, are they using state money to do this? Are they using state money to do this? Which leads me to believe that the Alabama legislature might be looking at a divisive concept like bill for state government. Cameron, does that concern you?
Does it concern me that state legislators have no idea what state money is being spent on or not? Yes, that concerns me deeply. As far as divisive concepts, I think this is just going to be so tough and run afoul of the First Amendment, ultimately. I think when it comes to policy and politics versus what we're calling liberal programming, I think the answer here is to have conservative programming and teach kids differently. The left has been very clear about their interest in teaching kids. For us to say, well, we want to ban certain things, well, I don't think that's enough. I think it has to be, no, actually, we have a different agenda. This is what we want. We want this, parents pushing for this at the local level and making sure that, hey, you know, we are pushing back on an agenda with a different one.
So, Cameron, what does that mean? What does that mean in actuality? What would you like to see at the local library that's pushing the conservative agenda?
Well, I mean, these are classic works that have been around for a long time. I mean, I've read them with my kids. Some of them are as simple as Encyclopedia Brown. I mean, they're old books, they're classics, they're great. But we need more. I mean, as a writer, I'll tell you, we need more writers. We need more people developing content for children that have we'll call it a more traditional worldview. I hate to say it like that, but what's happening right now is a lot of the perspectives that we see from the left that have a very, everything is okay, it's moral relativism, it's find your truth, it's kids are just like adults, you know, sexuality is fluid. All of these things are proactively being advanced towards children.
Yeah, well, listen, Cameron,
so
hold on.
We have to respond to that.
I agree with you. I wrote a book called No Tommy No, and I think I was ahead of the curve on all of this. You can find it at dalejacksonbooks.com. I was ahead of the curve on this because it was about telling people no. Like, you want to do stuff, the stupid things, the answer is no. And I think a lot of problems would be solved in this society if you're like, I want to change my gender when 12. No, you can't. See, boom, issue resolved. And I know that's much more complicated than that, but I agree with you. However, Cameron, my point on all of this is, up until 2 years ago, nobody cared about this. There's been an escalation. Before, we used to ban books like Huck Finn, and that would come from the left to ban it because of some of the language in there. Then they're like, okay, we don't want this language in here, and we'd like a drag queen with a really suggestive name that I can't say right now coming in and reading a book to your child with their legs spread. That's what we would like to do. That's what's happening, okay. Becca. I'm sorry. That's
can I get back on topic with Cameron, though? So, Cameron, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're not saying ban materials. You're saying add additional viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the response to problematic speech is more speech. It always has been. And when you are the entity that, and I'll use a personal example. My 12-year-old, I've convinced him that Bastiat's The Law is contraband and that it's hidden in the attic and that only special kids can read it. So my kid is like, oh, yeah, Dad, he's reading French economic philosophy from the 19th century. And it's because he thinks that it's banned. And so I think that this is what's going to happen is the more you tell kids you can't read something or these are dangerous, that's absolutely what kids want to read. Mm-hmm. And so the answer has to be more speech, not less. Don't be on the side of banning things.
I'm with you both on the not banning thing, but the practicality of this is very hard to do. Do you get like some sort of fairness doctrine that in my business, in radio, it went out the window long before I came around? But how do you do that? If they put this book up, you've got to put up some sort of counter argument. So when they put up books that have explicit sexual content for gay people, you put up explicit sexual content for straight people. I mean, what exactly does that look like? And that's when I think people throw their hands up and go, why are we paying for this? Why are we doing this? And I think that's where the legislature is headed. Cameron, let's move on for just a quick second here. Me and you've talked about school choice a lot. Mecca hates the topic, but it doesn't
I don't
matter.
hate it. I just think, it doesn't do.
The ALGOP chairman is very optimistic about this continuing to move forward in the Alabama legislature. I don't see it. Do you?
Why? Like, why is he optimistic? Like, I see him saying these things, but I've seen Keavi say these things. I've seen other leaders say positive things about school choice, and then it gets kind of just squished out in the end. The devil has always been in the details. It's been about empowering parents, giving them more choices, and then the AEA comes in and reminds Republicans that they give out a lot of campaign money. And and then it's over. That's how that goes. And so I think until Republicans start saying, you know what, we like teachers, we care very much about teachers, but the AEA's interests are salary and benefits for teachers, not necessarily educating kids. Kids are not the members of the AEA. It's the public school employees. And so that's their interest. It's totally fine. They have every right to express their viewpoint. But until you get serious about creating different outcomes for kids, this thing's dead on arrival. It just is.
Yeah, go read the AA newsletter towards the end of the session, and they made it pretty clear. We won the session. We killed this, any type of accountability or anything like that, and we got more money. And then, like, the next day, a story comes out and goes, more kids can't read. Good job, guys.
Okay,
You
but
nailed it.
Cameron, talking about this though, I think there's support for it out there. There's public support for it. There's parent support for it. But what are the hurdles? Let's just entertain the thought for a second that the AEA is not completely running the legislature and Montgomery. There are additional hurdles to do this. Even with the supermajority, I'm not saying they can't actually do it. I just mean that there are some concerns.
Sure. So what are the additional hurdles?
As far as, will this hurt public schools? Schools that are already hurting. That's an argument that may be made. You know, the signs that you're going to see on the next legislative session, don't take money from our public schools and things like that. And it's not just the failing schools and things like that that you have brought up. You know, there's a lot of schools that would be impacted.
Absolutely.
Like, what's the ultimate end game?
I'll make this real easy. All you need to do is create the same employment protocols that you have at a charter school across all public schools, and you don't have to move the money at all. That way, it's based on relative progress of children, and that if children are not progressing, then you get fired. And then if you don't see the results you need, there's accountability for it. And so wherever that is, I support that. There's nothing magical about charter schools or vouchers or these private schools. It's, is there accountability to deliver for children? If the answer is no, we played the sleight of hand for far too long. And basically what they say is, well, the Mountain Brook kids, for example, they have every advantage, but the Birmingham kids, they don't. It's not about Mountain Brook versus Birmingham city schools, or you see the same dynamic play out in pretty much every metro area in Alabama. It's about relative progress. Our kids, is the same kid making progress year over year from where that kid was, not from what's the best performing school in the state. And I think we're missing that again and again. And people say, well, this is about taking money from public. No, it's not. It's about focusing on the adults over the children. And I disagree with you, Mecca. I think the issue is the AEA. I think it is their power and control that they've built back up. Give them credit.
Oh, absolutely. There is absolutely AEA influence, but my point, I think, would be more, I think some parents and some voters would agree that there are some legitimate concerns. AEA involvement or not, there could still be concerns regarding the public schools.
As the big bad in the room, they get all the attention. I'll agree with that part. But a lot of those concerns are born out of the AEA. And you'll say, like, well, if you take this money away, this F school will be an F+ school. I mean, that'll be. I mean, that's really what the concern is, and I think that there is just I think a hyper focus on keeping things as they are. When you look at how things are, it's pretty bad. But anyway, the point.
Almost every school choice plan says we'll take X% of the per pupil funding away. So you take a kid out of the system, and then you leave a chunk of that funding. So it actually per pupil in that system leaves more money for those systems that aren't doing so well.
That is how some work. The Price Act did not work that way. It was 100%. But I think you're right. That's what's coming next. There will be a cutting off point as that. Cameron, we are way out of time here, and I appreciate everything you said there. We'll definitely get you back on Cameron Smith joining
Thanks,
us from
Cameron.
AL.com. Becca's about to leave. I got a parting shot for you. Stay tuned. You're watching Alabama Politics this week. Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for my friends at University Kia. Now look, I love Kias. I've driven plenty of them. I used to have a Kia Sportage. When my son was born, my wife said, no, we got to get ourselves one of these big SUVs. The Telluride from University Kia is an absolutely amazing vehicle. You get it at a great price, but you get everything at University Kia at a great price. Learn more about them today. Head on over to universitykia.com. Find the perfect vehicle for you, new and pre-owned. They got it for you. universitykia.com.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here, and this is my son, Grant. Now, I'm here to talk to you about Top Shelf Customized Cleaning. He's a handful, I'm a handful, and if I want to stay married, I need Top Shelf Customized Cleaning to come and take care of my house. They do an amazing job for me, and they'll do an amazing job for you. Cindy loves them, I love them, Grant loves them as well. Check them out on Facebook, Top Shelf Customized Cleaning. And don't forget, call them today, 256-417-9122. And when you talk to them, make sure you tell them Grant sent you.
WVNN is the only radio station of relevance in North Alabama, with the most live and local talk you'll find anywhere. Start your day with the Dale Jackson Show every morning at 5 a.m., followed by the Yeffy program at 9. Dan Bongino is up at 11. Right Side Radio starts your afternoons at 2. And Mark Levin takes you home at 5 p.m. It's the best news talk anywhere. And it's only on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improve range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
Welcome back to Alabama Politics this week. I'm Dale Jackson. We get to the party shot in just a second about Houston County Registrar, who is doing something, well, used to be the Houston County Registrar, who's doing something that they weren't supposed to do. Before I do that, let me remind you, the 7 things you should be talking about today. YellowHammerNews.com. Sign up for that. I got a text this week where somebody asked me, how do you come up with this stuff all the time? And I'm like, I'm a genius. Just follow. YellowHammerNews.com. Sign up for the 7 things. It's that simple, folks. As for right now, let's go ahead and get to the party shot. My party shot this week is directed at the entire state of Alabama and its government. The Houston County Registrar was removed by the Secretary of State, Wes Allen, from their job. Why? Because they were signing up voters who didn't give signatures. They were allowing felons to vote. They were giving felons voter identification cards when they could not vote. They were signing people up to vote at addresses they knew were not theirs. Let me help you out with this. I've been charged with this, so let me tell you what this is. It is called voter fraud, okay? And I'll tell you this again, it shouldn't be happening. And this is when someone actually commits the crime that I'm talking about. Why is this person not being perp walked out? If you're messing with the vote, the most important thing, you get mad at Donald Trump because he says, I won in 2020 and all this other stuff. But this goes on, and I haven't heard a word about this person being charged with a crime. Hopefully we'll get there. And if you tell me that there is no law that you can charge them with, change the law, because this is the worst thing you could possibly see. Someone in that position abusing it for their own personal gain. That's a real problem. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for watching Alabama Politics and listening to it all over the great state of Alabama. We'll be back next week.